I have flown to Barcelona, Spain to play the most important tournament of my life. The Sunway Chess International, regrouping 242 chess players from over 40 different countries. At my current rating of 2079, this is a global test of my true level against top competition. Only 12 points away from my peak achieved last month, I seek to cross 2100 for the first time ever. Welcome to episode 4 of my 10-round tournament in Sitges, Spain. This recap is sponsored by our friends over at ChessReps. If you're looking for a way to memorize your openings in a science-backed way, I highly recommend ChessReps' software. You can choose from a multitude of openings from their diverse catalog. You can also now create a chess course from your own PGN file and learn through the ChessReps software. Find the link in my description to try ChessReps for free for 7 days. So after beating 2 lower rated opponents, I am back into this tournament with 2 out of 3, and now I'm facing a very strong player, an international master, Josep Anton Lacasa Diaz, with the black pieces. So my opponent has the better side of the board and the better side of the brain. So my opponent goes 1 knight f3, which my opponent plays everything in the book. I had enough information this game to prepare severely, but it was so hard to prepare because he plays e4, d4, knight f3, c4, and I didn't know what to expect. But knight f3 is the type of game that he would want against me, so that's the move that I prepared against the most. Knight f3 offers a very positional game, laid out game. Some people would call it old man's chess. My opponent was in his 40s, which is in the older side of chess players. So I play d5, e3, and now I go knight f6, and my opponent goes for c4. And this is called like the Keimer variation, or e3 poison, or the ready, whatever you wish to call it. And here I had some spicy prep. I go with e6, my opponent goes knight c3, bishop d6, which is already coming into my prep. And right when my opponent was going knees deep into my prep, he goes with d4. Which is sidestepping the bulk of my preparation, but here I still know the plans for the black pieces. Basically, you cannot give c5 with tempo on your bishop on d6, so you have to close that up and play b6 to prevent, but also open up your bishop to develop on b7 on this long diagonal and then castle quickly. So c takes, e takes, bishop d3, I castle, and now castles, bishop b7, and we get this position. My opponent plays b3, I go a6. I'm preventing against this knight b5 stuff, a lot of these moves. It's a very nice preparatory preventing move. Bishop b2, and now I go for knight bd7, and here the opening kind of officially ends as both sides have castled, developed all their minor pieces, and here comes the middle game where the plans matter. What is your plan as the black pieces, right? So my plan here, I decided, first of all, after knight e2, was to secure this e4 square with the means of rook e8, and after knight g3, which is my opponent's plan to go to f5, restrict my opponent with g6, and now I'm playing against this knight that's on g3 that's completely restricted by my pawn, and also playing against this bishop that is completely restricted on the king side of its diagonal by my nice pawn chain. And so my opponent plays rook c1, and here comes my plan, knight e4. I'm taking up this e4 square with my knight, and I'm trying to settle a second knight on e4 with knight f6, and so preventing knight e5 in doing so. So my opponent goes rook c2, and now I go for the second portion of my plan. So I have this very nice knight on e4, I'm fixing these 2 pawns, the center is fixed, and they say in chess the best time to attack your opponent on a flank, so on the side of the board, is when the center is closed. And so here I played the move pawn to h5. I want to go h4, h3, open up this king, and threaten some checkmates, try to play for checkmate, and so my opponent goes for knight e2. Preventing me to go h4 with tempo on this knight is a very nice prophylactic move, and he's trying to reset on f4 as well. So I go for queen f6. I'm just trying to play against this knight on e5, but in hindsight, this puts my queen on an x-ray, which is not the best. But okay, I move my queen later on in the game. So queen c1, now I go for b5. I want to go for this knight here, but also queen c1 was threatening bishop a3 to trade off his bad bishop that's behind closed doors of that pawn structure for my great bishop on this fantabulous diagonal pointed towards the king. So now I can meet bishop a3 with a nice restrictive move b4. That's also part of my plan. And in this position, my opponent doesn't take 5 minutes. No. Doesn't take 40 minutes. No. More. He takes 44 minutes for knight e5. I come back to the board. Well, okay, I was at the board. I came out of the board. I came back to the board. Finally, he plays knight e5 with 28 minutes left on move 17. And to hit time control, to hit the second time control of the game, he needs to play 13 more moves to move 40. So he has 28 minutes for 13 more moves out of the opening, like insane choice. And I start thinking, so first I'm like, okay, he spent all this time for this, he can't be serious. But then I start thinking, White's gonna go with f4 and completely crush me on the king side, so I have to act on this knight, which is a pawn sacrifice. It's a sham sacrifice because White will be winning back a pawn on c7. But I start thinking, okay, bishop takes, d takes, and knight takes, and suddenly my knight is in this really unpleasant pin, and bishop takes, d takes, knight f4, and White is better. Like this pawn is falling, this knight is pinned, it's super unpleasant to play this, White is just completely crushing. Okay, so I thought knight takes, so that on takes, bishop takes, the bishop is not pinning my knight, and I'm actually playing against this bishop. But then I thought of bishop takes, queen takes, and rook takes here. And it's very unpleasant. It's attacking my bishop. I basically have to commit to rook ac8, pinning this rook to the queen. And if takes, rook takes, and I get this c3 square, queen e1, queen b2, and this is equal, I thought. Like it's not insane. And so on takes, if rook takes rook c8, I thought, okay, this is a better version for White, rook c2. And here after rook c2, queen takes c2, and I still don't love my position. Like rook c8, queen d1, and I just have this weird isolated pawn that's going to be blocked by this knight, and this is going to be a weakness for the rest of the game. My bishop is terrible on b7 versus my opponent has the good bishop, and I thought there's no way black can win this game, and black can't really win this game. It's just completely equal. The problem here is I think I'm better after knight e5. I think the black pieces are better. And so I started looking for what if I sacrifice the exchange for a pawn and the exchange here. And that's what I ended up doing after myself taking 40 minutes of time. And I take here. And I got so obsessed with this move and this entire idea to sack the exchange, I completely lost track of the actual material I would be getting for the rook sacrifice. And the material I'm getting is actually just not enough. And I kept trying to convince myself that this is okay based on the wrong evaluation of the position, which completely messed up my thinking system in this game. Insane type of mistake, and I watch out for it next time. You need the proper eval, and if you are shaky on the evaluation of the position, try to recalibrate. Try to think, okay, maybe White is equalizing here. Maybe White is equal here. Maybe black is equal. Maybe black is better. Always be flexible with your evaluation and be critical of the standpoint of your chess game. So d takes, I play knight takes, and now knight f4 by my opponent, and I didn't love this move. I had calculated takes, which is all forcing, and then rook takes. And this was a big bulk of my thought. Because on bishop takes, queen takes, it's very hard to defend this. Like there's two pieces that are attacked. And finally I came up with, what did I come up here with? I came up with queen h4. Did I? No, what did I come up with? Check, takes, and I somehow convinced myself that I wasn't going to be a piece down here. I looked at this position for so long in my head before committing to rook takes e5. But anyways, my opponent plays knight f4, and I'm like suddenly recovering. I take this bishop. I see that this desperado is fine for me. Like bishop takes, knight takes, and if bishop back to a1, I go with g5.
insane. Looks winning for black. So here, knight f4, I go with takes, and my opponent goes takes, attacking my queen. I go back to e7, and here b4, and I have no counterplay suddenly. And the black pieces are just worse. Like, I have like a pawn and a rook. No. Like, I have a pawn and the bishop pair, so this light-scored bishop, for a rook. And this bishop's not even good. Like, I'd rather not even have the pawn here, so my bishop has the entire diagonal. So I fight, takes, and now my opponent had this insane move, which I thought was completely winning during the game. Like, you know when your opponent doesn't spot something? I was like, queen takes with queen d7 threat and queen h8 mate threat. It's gotta be winning. And after bishop f5, there's takes. And here white is threatening some a6, queen b7. And it's over for the black pieces. But my opponent sidesteps this, still plays very safe, takes on a5, I go h4, f3 attacking my queen, queen d2. I have some stakes left in this game. I have this very nice center for black. After takes, queen takes, rook f2, I go rook a6, defending my bishop from this double attack from this queen on d5. And after queen back to d2, takes, f5, rook doubling on this file. Like, f5 seemed like the only move for me. After king f8, I thought of bishop f6, just completely lights out. Apparently I have bishop c7 here, which I completely missed, attacking this bishop. But my opponent doubles rooks, and here I realized I blundered. I was on 0 time at this point. I have 1 minute on the clock. My opponent sacks his rook for the 2 bishops. And here after takes, I'm just realizing I'm down a piece here. After takes, down a piece. This would be a draw if it weren't for these 6 pawns on the board, or these 3 pawns on the board, really. But they are on the board, and sadly, my opponent just capitalizes with bishop f6. I can't defend this 1 pawn, and it's the beginning of the end. I pull my hand out, and I resign. And this is my second loss of the tournament. I now have 2 out of 4, and I'm playing the scariest pairing in my life. A Malaysian kid, 18 or 17 years old, who has a performance of 2200, and upon realizing his Lichess account got closed.